Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here tonight. We're chilling out talking about WWE's Monday Night Raw coming up around the corner. I am in a very weird mood. Tomorrow, we're going to be crowning a new champion yet once again. After WWE SummerSlam, Finn Balor won the WWE Universal Championship, which is a weird name to start off the championship with in the first place. I think people hate the name. People hate they hate the title itself, thinking it's basically just a carbon copy, just a different color of the other title. When it comes down to it, I think what we realize is that WWE really is going to be processing the same belt over and over and over again. People will be buying almost the same belt with basically a different strap, but the thing that they really want to sell now are the plates that go on them. We've seen them for different wrestlers. They've got a lot of Legends ones out there. They've got DX ones, NWO ones, Stone Cold Steve Austin ones. It seems that like the plates come out for people as they win the championship as they go along. It doesn't matter how much you like Zack Ryder. You're not going to get a Zack Ryder plate until he actually wins the big one, but you can get some of the other ones. But it is what it is. I'm wearing my Fuji Vice shirt. I put that on after I got home from work today. This is a shirt that honestly I got from Barbershop Windows. I probably got this shirt back in 2011. You can probably pick this up from Pro Wrestling Tees, which owns Barbershop Windows now if you're really a diehard Mr. Fuji fan. If I can go into that for just a minute, because I'm not going to make a video on Mr. Fuji itself. Most people don't really know who Mr. Fuji is, I think, these days. But honestly, a lot of people who do know who Mr. Fuji is only know him as the manager of maybe Yokozuna. A little bit older fans will know him as the manager of Demolition, maybe the Powers of Pain. Mr. Fuji was an awesome manager, but honestly, as good as a manager was, as him being a character on the outside during these matches, Mr. Fuji was even 10 times better as a wrestler back in the day. And you had to get like the older best of the WWF Coliseum home videos. I'm talking about like 1 through 5, the old stuff. Is when you really see how good Mr. Fuji was as a tag team wrestler back in the day. He used to fuck some people up. So rest in peace goes out to Mr. Fuji out there, and see where we go from there. But as we go on from here, we're going to be crowning a new champion with Finn Balor giving up the title. We had matches last week to see who goes into the Fatal 4-Way. We've got Seth Rollins, we've got Roman Reigns, we've got Big Cass, and we've got Kevin Owens. Honestly, in my opinion, let's just start out with the weakest link of all. I know that honestly when we first started talking about the brand split that was coming up with Raw and SmackDown splitting up the rosters, it was going to make these, exclusive show pay-per-views like the upcoming Backlash or Clash of the Champions. They're going to be very weak shows. You go back and you watch your old Great American Bashes, which were SmackDown branded pay-per-views. You're going to see that there's a lot of not really bad matches, but matches that you just don't even care about these days. And honestly, even with television back in the day, people didn't care about those matches at all. And honestly, with injuries to Finn Balor, I can't really think of who else is injured on the Raw brand side, but I mean, Brock Lesnar being a part-timer, you get a Fatal 4-Way where you can't even put 4 real names into there. I understand that they put Enzo and Kaz into the tag team match with John Cena going up against the Club, and that was sort of to make sure that John Cena was able to get a win over the team AJ Styles and sort of even up their battle, but it was also sort of to elevate Enzo and Kaz as a team and sort of show that they were the real deal coming out of NXT, because they didn't really want to give them the titles right out of the gate. And sort of want to get them, put on the roster and find their slots to where they're going. We've seen a lot of the teams as of late get bumped up, and Enzo and Kaz are really over. But I mean, like look what happened to the Vaudevillains. The Vaudevillains are jobbing out right now. They're looking almost like the Ascension when the Ascension was brought up to the main roster over there. But honestly, to me, if you want to get Big Kaz over, there's lots of talk on, Wrestling Observer Radio, talks like this about, Big Kaz being a future blue chipper for the WWE, that Vince McMahon thinks this guy is going to be the next Kevin Nash or be the next Diesel. I don't see it. It's not that I don't like the guy. I just don't think that he's going to be that guy. And I mean, you can really see that, Roman Reigns, that experiment is going. I think honestly that Roman Reigns is going to be a great wrestler. I think he is a great wrestler. I think he's going to be a great champion someday. I just think that people are in this funk right now where they just don't like him for some reason. People don't like John Cena. The guy brings in tons of money. It is what it is, and you either love the guy or you hate the guy, and that's sort of like the same way that people feel about Roman Reigns. They want to see guys, Seth Rollins, they want to see Finn Balor, they want to see Kevin Owens, they want to see guys like that succeed. For some reason, they don't want to see Roman Reigns succeed. If you listen to the Finn Balor podcast with Chris Jericho, Finn Balor said that he didn't know much about Roman Reigns, honestly, other than what he had read on the internet and heard people say online, and he got into the ring and had that match with them on Monday Night Raw in order for Finn Balor to be the #1 contender to go to SummerSlam to fight Seth Rollins, and he found out in the lockup how good Roman Reigns was and put that guy over like $1 million, and he didn't have to do that. You can tell that he has respect for that guy, and if it's coming from a guy like Finn Balor who's wrestled all around the world, you know that really means something, and it's not just him putting him over because they're both in WWE, and he appreciated that he put him over to put him into that slot at SummerSlam. But I don't know. Big Kaz and Enzo, they can kick off any pay-per-view and get the huge pop. They did it in NXT. They can do it in WWE. It's almost, to me, like, I know that Enzo and Kaz get a huge response, but to me it's almost like if you go back to the Attitude Era and see the response that the New Age Outlaws got, because the Road Dogg came out and said, oh, you didn't know, that they were like, oh, let's make Road Dogg world champ. Didn't happen. That's the same thing I feel about Enzo, the same thing I feel about Big Kaz. Great tag team. I don't want to see Big Kaz go into the main event here. I think that honestly, if it wasn't for the injury spot, I don't think he would be in there. There was lots of talk about the pay-per-view. It was supposed to be Finn Balor against Kevin Owens going for the championship. That'd be great in its own. From there, that's going to leave us 3 people that have a shot to win the championship. It's either going to be Seth Rollins, it's either going to be Kevin Owens, or it's going to be Roman Reigns. Honestly, in my opinion, Roman Reigns would be the luckiest guy in the world to lose a spot due to a drug suspension, get passed up and hand the ball to Finn Balor to be the new face of Monday Night Raw. Finn Balor get injured and then hand it right back to Roman Reigns. Does make sense because you can immediately go into Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins loses the match at SummerSlam. Seth Rollins loses to Finn Balor, which some people think that automatically would set up Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor as some match down the road. And then you have to sort of realize when Finn Balor is going to be coming back. Some people say 4 months, which puts it around the Royal Rumble. Some people put 6 months, which in my opinion would put it on WrestleMania time, but I don't think that it's going to give him a WrestleMania debut. I think that would honestly put it towards a WrestleMania, a Raw after WrestleMania debut, to sort of kick something off. I don't know if that means he can push him right into the main event slot, unless you go with some sort of like a WrestleMania rematch, but you add Finn Balor into the main event and make it a 3-way, or it could be something like last year where you used a guy like Triple H who's not a full-time wrestler in the main event, and then he just sort of falls off the face of the earth, and you put Finn Balor right into that slot against a guy like Seth Rollins. If it is Seth Rollins versus Triple H, I don't know if Triple H is going to be in the main event again, but we'll have to see where we go from there. Yeah, sorry about that. My roommate just came in here to tell me that the King signed Ty Lawson to a 1-year deal. Big deal. We still suck. But honestly, when it comes down to it, I've been making this video for a while. I'll come out and say that I think Seth Rollins is going to win the championship. It makes the most sense to me. But I really feel this is the biggest chance for WWE to get behind a guy like Kevin Owens. I know that they were working on a Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho split. I don't know how you split those guys up and both guys remain heel. We've seen heel versus heel matches before, but honestly, I think if they do split, it'd be a good chance for Kevin Owens to go babyface. Kevin Owens, to me, honestly, is the closest thing that we're ever going to get to today's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I know that in the past, people have talked about the fact that, Dean Ambrose would be a great, Stone Cold Steve Austin. If anything, the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast with Dean Ambrose as a guest should show you that Dean Ambrose does not want to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Dean Ambrose wants to be Dean Ambrose. And I know that when Dean Ambrose was having the Hell in the Cell match against Seth Rollins, he was really, really heating up, and it really looked like he was going to be a real big, bright spot of the future. Now here he is, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion on SmackDown, and there's people not watching SmackDown anymore. So honestly, in my opinion, that sort of shows you, in my opinion, where Dean Ambrose is. He's not making me flip over to watch him and Ziggler on SmackDown on Tuesdays. But I think that honestly, Kevin Owens is the most relatable guy on the roster. He is a prize fighter. He fights for his family to have a better life, for his for him, his wife, his son Owen, and that's why he does what he does. And if he won the championship, it would lead to him having a better life. He doesn't have to go out there and pound beer and do all that other stuff, but he just has to go out there and fight and do what it takes to win matches. And someday Kevin Owens is going to be champion. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow night, but when it does, I think that he will be one of the things that really does connect people with wrestling again, and I think that he will be a bright thing. He was really, really great as Kevin Steen when he wrestled for PWG, when he wrestled for Ring of Honor. When he was in Ring of Honor, he really lit a match. When he was doing his whole thing with him and El Generico, and then he went away. And when he came back from his hiatus that Jim Cornette put him on, it really lit a fire within Ring of Honor. They really didn't have the roster that they did at one point. They still had Davey Richards, they still had Eddie Edwards, but they really had been gutted by WWE and developmental and NXT, coming in and taking a lot of people. And in my opinion, Kevin Steen, when he was having his championship run, really wasn't wrestling the A-list top guys that Ring of Honor had. But honestly, in my opinion, it was one of the hottest times that company had. And I think that he could do that with WWE. Getting behind him, he's had 2 Intercontinental title runs. Honestly, in my opinion, him beating John Cena is something that is his brightest moment. Him winning the Intercontinental Championship the first time, him winning the championship the second time really wasn't his biggest moment as the first, but him winning the WWE Championship is going to be a big, huge moment for a lot of people that have been following his career for a long time. I'm hoping that it's tomorrow night, but I'm going to be picking Seth Rollins. Honestly, in my opinion, I have no idea what else is going to be going down on Monday Night Raw, so I'm going to go study up on that, and I'll be right back with you in a little bit. Alright, I've gone back over and I've looked over WWE's Monday Night Raw 5-point preview, which honestly only has 4 things this week. But it is what it is. Honestly, when I talked about earlier about the fact that you split the roster between Raw and SmackDown, when you split up the roster, basically you make it where there's less star quality guys on both times. And now we've already had injuries to Finn Balor, and it makes it where a guy like Kaz is being moved into the main event when this guy is he's not even a tag team champion. I mean, he's just a guy in a tag team who happens to be 7 foot tall. And you can't teach that. It is what it is. And that gets to the point where now you're on Monday Night Raw, you got a 3-hour show, and you've only got 4 bullet points to what's going to be going down. One of them is big. One of them is for the Universal title. You're going to be getting a new champion. You know that. But then when it comes down to it, what team will Gallows and Anderson target up against next? Is Bayley poised to wrap her arms around the WWE Women's Championship? And then can Braun Strowman be stopped? Gallows and Anderson, honestly, in my opinion, have to be going after the New Day. When you think about it, why is this team not WWE Tag Team Champion? Last week we had them taking out the Dudleys. They had a no contest at SummerSlam. I think, honestly, Gallows and Anderson were brought in to be big things. Splitting them up and splitting them away from AJ Styles does not make any sense. Immediately, Carl Anderson went on Twitter, basically said that the rules do not apply to the club. They're not here to listen to what the GMs or Stephanie or Shane have to say. If AJ's in trouble on SmackDown, they're going to be there and they're going to help him out. They're going to take over the tag team division on Monday Night Raw. Honestly, in my opinion, they got a lot of good tag teams on SmackDown. It looks like it's going to be led up by American Alpha, going to be led up by the Usos. You've also got, some teams in there like Breezango or whatever the heck you're going to call them. You've got the Ascension. You've got the Vaudevillains. You've got the Hype Bros. Lots of teams over there. honestly, in my opinion, the club, the stronger, tag team division looks like it's going to be on SmackDown. Having them with AJ Styles, honestly, in my opinion, makes a lot more sense. But maybe they had plans to be doing something with the club and Finn Balor. They teased it at SummerSlam. Finn Balor wanted no part of AJ Styles. And he acknowledged them, but when the two sweep went up, he was gone. He didn't want to be, he didn't want to remember the past too long. He wanted to move on. He had a big night that night, and it is what it is. Gallows and Anderson, they're going to be tag champs sooner than later, so it is what it is. Bayley took out Dana Brooke, which makes her, I believe, the #1 contender in the women's division. Makes a lot of sense with the injury to Sasha Banks. That'd be Bayley going up against Charlotte. I think Bayley and Charlotte had a big match in NXT. I can't remember if it was on an NXT special or just on an NXT show itself, but they've got a rivalry. Them coming up out of NXT, Charlotte bringing up the fact that Bayley was the one left behind. She wasn't as good as Charlotte. She wasn't as good as Sasha Banks. She wasn't as good as Becky Lynch. She was sort of left to be the girl in NXT. She had to take an extra year to be ready, even though if you go back to last year's SummerSlam, possibly the match of the weekend was Sasha Banks against Bayley at the NXT TakeOver show. So I don't think Bayley's character is someone that takes the championship in her first run. I think that Bayley is somebody who gets built up to the point where you think she's going to be champion. She gets her ass kicked, gets beat all the way back down to the middle, and then you have to see her slowly rise to the top. If you remember, Bayley started catching some ground in NXT, and then she had an injury angle that took her down to the bottom, and then they immediately started the build up for getting her to the top to where she finally became NXT Women's Champion. I think that's probably what they're going to recreate with her on the main roster. Last week we saw Braun Strowman wrestling against yet another jobber, which I think was named he had an awesome name, like Johnny Action or something like that, and he got promo time with Byron Saxton and said the reason why he took the shot. Some guys had got in the ring and said that they were after the money, and that's why they were after the shot. If you beat Braun Strowman, WWE gives you a bonus check, and it's worth the risk to get in the ring against this guy to try and take him down. But he just went with a whole deal of he likes the big sweaty men or something like that is what he said. Kind of shocking when you think about WWE's PG nature, but maybe a lot of their sponsors don't actually watch the show, so they got away with it. I don't think anybody's beating Braun Strowman for a good while until they want somebody to beat Braun Strowman. When I look at Braun Strowman, honestly, I think of, what was his name? The big dude. It's not my fault. Gene Snitsky. Where basically Gene Snitsky was the guy on Raw. He got built up, and then all of a sudden he went away after a while. Then all of a sudden he was brought back, and he's brought in sort of as a monster. He had green teeth. He had shaved his head. And he was killing fools on ECW. Then all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, he got moved to Monday Night Raw. Had a match against John Cena. They built him up like a monster. Cena beat him, and then after that, we never saw the guy again. That's what I think of Braun Strowman. I don't know if Big Show's on Raw or if he's on SmackDown. Braun Strowman's only going to be able to beat jobbers for so long, and then he's have to go up against somebody like Big Show, Kane, Mark Henry. These are the matches that are going to be built up for Braun Strowman before getting him to the point where he's going to be going after a championship, losing to somebody, and then losing all momentum that he has. That's what we have being built up for Monday Night Raw this week. Maybe they'll add something tomorrow to sort of build some fire for Raw. But when it comes down to it, when you know you're getting a new champion, it's going to be a big edition of Raw. So we'll see what's going down tomorrow. Peace out, everybody. See you guys down the road.